So I have the honor of sharing with you a journey of collaboration with hernia that started with me this year. And it's been started by Dave Chen and others, as you'll see. Collaboration is about teamwork and sharing. And this talk was slated to be given by Dr. Reinpold, and who was not able to make it. So this is how we bridge the European experience of collaboration with the United States. So these are my disclosures. I don't think they'll be effective for today. There's a timer. It's good. It's good. It's good. So the story of the Hernia Compact begins in Europe with four main actors, and they represented here today through my talk, starting with René Fontenille, who came up with the design for the Hernia Compact, and that is the start of an evolution of teaching through collaboration through Europe. So the first European Hernia School was in Vienna in 2017. So this is a new endeavor, a new way of thinking about education, in that it is through collaboration and friendship instead of through competition. And when we begin to share our own complications and we share our own successes, we learn from each other, we can begin mitigating that. And so that was a start. You'll see Ralph Lorenz and Dr. Steckmeter and Dr. Fortnille and Dr. Reinpold and others. And so they began to put together a hernia school with the idea of starting with a compact as a way to teach. And the aim really is to establish a training program that's really on the state-of-the-art of hernia surgery and really to inspire enthusiasm about hernia. As we heard, hernia is not necessarily enthusiastically appreciated across. So getting our trainees and our young surgeons to think enthusiastically about the impact of hernia can be for their community and the quality that they can provide to their community that can have is building enthusiasm for that. They want to make sure that they ensure training for all attendees can be possible through local hernia centers. And they want to make sure it's a good mixture between hernia and practical exercise and teaching the best evidence available. And so the Hernia Compact began in Austria and moved through Vienna and has been to Italy as well. And the group has started out with the Hernia Compact, but realized with the success of that this one-time type of education needed to be the foundation, or at least the building block, to take somebody through a learning journey from basic hernia onto the complex. And so their model was a 3-day model, as was based on anatomy and hands-on and theory. The anatomy is introduction lectures by some of the world's best. And the main concept, though, of this, and I think really the secret sauce that we learned with our event here in the United States, was how much collaboration is not just talked about, but it is demonstrated. When you have the world's best hernia surgeons speaking peer-to-peer and listening with understanding ears of how hard sometimes hernias can be and helping others get better, it becomes a peer-to-peer trust relationship. And that trust is really what allows collaboration to happen. And so amongst all of the didactics and the ultrasound training and cadaver work that gets done, it's really about building relationships and building friendships, which I think our last speaker really demonstrated how that can connect. And so they were started out with a 3-day course and a full day of hands-on. What's interesting in the European model is they can go into each operating room theater and do live surgeries with others scrubbed to the table, which we struggle to do here from state to state in our healthcare model. But they definitely socialize and spend time together, both in the operating room and afterwards. Day 3 for them was a lot about theory, and I think one of the most interesting parts of it is their topic of failure culture and understanding that failures happen, and sometimes failures aren't just technical, Sometimes they're communication failures or expectation failures, but understanding failure is how we begin to move quality forward. So that's the experience, and of course when you have world leaders like Dr. Shumpoli giving you lectures, here you can see is going through grading scale, really trying to get people to grade hernias and their dictations better so we understand and can categorize them better and begin talking about apples to apples and not apples to grapefruits. And so their experience that they've had to date is 12 courses, over 600 trainees, and mostly residents and those that are early, maybe first 3 years in practice. Through the standardized programs, they do mandatory evaluations of the training centers, the teachers, the presenters, obviously getting a 360 view. The course itself has been rated good, and I'll show you some of the data that they've collected about that. And they've worked with local corporate alliances to be able to do the funding to date, which is a model that we'll use as well. So this is an article published by Dr. Lawrence and Steckmeister and Reinpold and Fortnell and Meyer and Schroeder and Cochling, and their experience over time. And you can see in this data that they've done this in Berlin and Hamburg and Munich, and that the attendance has been, the value that has been seen by the participants has been good or very good. And you drill down in some of the interesting questions is that would you recommend others attending a course like this? And it was highly valued. Would you like to have a multi-phase training concept? So was today enough? And most people said this was a great place to start, but more multi-phase training concept would be embraced. And then I like this slide is that where do you rate yourself before and after? And the majority of the attendees listed themselves before as average. And even some, 23% bad at hernia, which I think is quite honest. I'd love to see this repeated amongst our trainees, particularly chief residents and those maybe first year in practice of how they feel about their hernia skills as they enter the world. But afterwards, they're seeing a movement essentially from average to good, which I think speaks to the fact that this is the beginning. The hernia compact is the beginning of the educational cycle. And so where they felt on theoretical knowledge, most of them average, and then moving to good as well. And so I think that we've got good data that shows that in a good training session model, that this progress can be made forward in a collaborative way. And this teaching model and training contents is kind of mandatory. The training courses should be affordable. They shouldn't be, if we're going to reach into all of the community, we need to be making sure that they are accessible. And I think we're going to have to keep close cooperation. So we took our experience here was that we took the International Hernia Compact, and under Dave Chen's leadership, we did the first American version of the Hernia Compact, realizing it needed to be adapted in format and topics, and I'll share that with you today. So here's the setup as we set it up, and talking really the first half of the day about inguinal hernia, talking about TAP, Schuldeis, Lichtenstein, so that people had a tissue repair, a mesh repair, and a MIS concepts. And of course, Dr. Felix gave us our great 10 Commandments and the critical view, which is a great talk. The afternoon session for us, unlike the European model and doing it 3 days, we did it in 1 day, trying to compress it. The second session was on ventral hernia, and to entice interest and to build suspense, we added some very complex things to be taught to our group, including the different types of component separations and even peristomal hernias. We had a Cadaver Lab in the afternoon, which was hands-on, which was very different from a lot of the Cadaver Labs that I've taught over the years. This was really educator-directed, not educator-led. We asked each individual what they wanted to learn most in the Cadaver Lab and began setting on that, so they were getting out of their session what they wanted. And so I think that was quite effective. So our first American Hernia Compact course, we had 25 participants. We kind of held our breath as we wondered who would sign up and how many would. We filled up in about 2 weeks, and so we feel that there's some pent-up anticipation for that. We had 13 faculty, and we did this in the beautiful Aria Hotel, a cadaver course there, which I don't know if they knew that we did until after we did it. We wanted to have a bridge of the European model, so we invited Dr. Reinpold, Fortnell, Steckmeister, and Dr. Lawrence to come over and talk to us and show us how to do this. We used their script as the platform for ours, and I was lucky enough to have Eric Paula as my co-chair. Of course, Dave Chen is our thought leader. Gina Dralis, amongst all the things that she did as president at EHS this year, was able to come down and give a talk on anatomy. Dr. Augustine, Ballister, Orstein, Tofi, and Felix were all there, and the faculty were highly engaged, and that made the engagement with our learners tremendous. So here we are learning, sharing, listening. They're all very engaged, as you can see, right? Beautiful Aria Hotel, but most people want to be there for the anatomy lab, and so the ability to scrub and to learn the details of what we think and may have read might have been a great Lichtenstein repair, or what is the parved amid modification to the Lichtenstein, and seeing that by people that do it every day was just tremendous. So the story of bringing the hernia compact to the U.S., I think we found is a very valuable experience. And so I think we look to the future in creating a close collaboration with the Hernia Compact International, and seeing how that will fit in with the American Hernia Society's future for outreach to develop young surgeons, take them along their course for hernia learning through their early careers. But I think going back and understanding the key is really having a good mixture of theory and hands-on training, but also, if I'll go back, and I love this, exciting program in an atmosphere of friendship to spread enthusiasm for hernia surgery, especially among young surgeons. That, I think, is paramount. And so Dr. Rempel wanted to make sure that this slide got up. I promised him I'd have this up as an invitation to Hamburg this September for the European Hernia Society. And so thank you very much.